What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Well, in today's video, we are going over Solana as it's doing a fantastic job of outperforming the market, especially over the last couple days. Now, I do believe this to be because of a few different factors, so we're going to cover exactly what's going on the Solana ecosystem, what's going on with the price, and what I personally am doing in relationship to Solana. So, with that said, of course, let's not waste any more time, and let's get straight into the video. So, what we can see is Solana has now had about 5 days of green in a row, coming off of the bottom, sitting right roughly around $26. We are back up about 41%. So anyone who bought in towards some of these lower $26 levels, as we spoke about this $25 level, you're doing quite well. Now, I do believe this to be because the entire crypto market's doing a little bit better, right? We have found a bit of a bottom here, and we are starting to see growth from Bitcoin. But I do accredit it more to the fact that Solana has seen some decent news just yesterday that got rid of some very controversial thoughts for the most part. Let's just say that for the most part. Now, what we saw, a couple days ago was that on Solend, there was a whale. Now, that whale had a position of hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, the problem was that if that whale was liquidated, which they were extremely close to being liquidated, it would free all of that Solana into just the open market, which would cause absolute chaos for Solana itself. Obviously, we know they have enough congestion as it is, and so for that reason, the team was like, well, if they don't answer the phone, which they didn't, we're going to take control of their wallet. Now, that in itself, that's a very slippery slope, and I don't personally like that. It's like, okay, sure, yes, I understand that they're putting a whole entire platform such as Solend in risk, but the issue is that the idea here is decentralization. The idea here is to not do that. Whenever we saw what happened up in Canada, whenever there were all the riots, and then the Canadian government froze all of those bank accounts, people were saying, oh, this is why we use crypto. So just because something's happening that you don't like or that you didn't plan for, doesn't mean you can take control of people's money. You get what I'm saying? And so for that reason, of course, what we need to, pay very close attention to is how this transpires. I will be honest and say that it did kind of turn me away from Solana a little bit because, of course, we know they're decentralized, but even just the ability to do that, it's too slippery of a slope. And the fact that they were so willing to go through with that is just, I don't know, there's a weird balance there because I know it would have been a good thing realistically in terms of trying to save that, trying to save us from the madness that would have ensued. But at the same time, it's like you can't just control people's wallets anytime that you want. But what we did see was that Solend, a decentralized borrowing and lending protocol in Solana, overturns a controversial vote to commandeer a whale's account and regain 5.7 million Solana. So what we can see is that Solend went ahead, they realized that this was not the way to go, and they did overthrow it. They said, nope, this is not happening, we're not allowing it. And I do believe this to be the better decision, of course. So the fact that we saw them step in and counter something that many people didn't like, I do believe has held a little bit of a play in the fact that we are getting such a strong push in Solana's price. So with that said, let's talk about what are we looking for now. We're starting to get a little progress, but I don't want people to get too ahead of themselves. So let's talk about what are we looking for now. Well, personally speaking, what I'm paying attention to is Bitcoin more than anything. Let's go ahead and make that clear. Although I am looking at Solana, I'm paying the most attention to Bitcoin. Do not ignore your Bitcoin technical analysis because Bitcoin is going to command the rest of the market. But in terms of Solana, what we can see is that an actual pretty interesting bottom play out or a bottom formation is playing out at this point, especially if we look at this thing on the hourly charts. Now, on the hourly charts, we can see a beautiful example of a W bottom. What that is whenever we have a bottom getting put in a general area, we have a strong push towards the upside in which we establish resistance, then a bottom push back down to this general area, and then we revisit this previous, this top side push here. Of course, creates what can be identified as a W. Now, whenever we have these W formations, there's always something that we look for, and that is the clearing of the mid-level resistance, the MLR. And that's what this is. And so what you can see is that we have done that. We have come up, we've cleared this level sitting roughly around $35.97. And now that we have done that, we can start to look for, completions towards the upside to execute the breakout target. Now, what's the breakout target for a W bottom? What you're going to do, you're going to take the distance from this line, the mid-level of resistance, and you're going to draw the line all the way down to the bottom of your most recent side of the W, and then you're going to apply that to the top of this MLR. And what you're going to do is that is going to be your breakout target. So our breakout target currently on Solana is sitting right at roughly, let's go ahead and give it $49.35, and coincidentally lining up with this key area of not only just resistance, but this macro support that we saw previously as well. So what we can see is that it does line up quite beautifully with these previous levels of liquidity, which show that this is a very active breakout target, and it means that there is a very strong likelihood that this could happen. Okay. Now, the issue that I'm seeing right here, and the reason why I'm not buying, although we did break out right here, is because we are starting to get signs that this is a bit of an overextension. Now, what I mean by that is if we look at just the hourly charts, you can start to see what's going on here. What you can see is that we're getting this strong push. Let's compare this to the RSI. We're getting this strong push to the upside, right? And this is continuously going just about straight up, right? If we look at the line that this thing is following, it's going roughly straight up, okay? But in comparison to what's happening here on the hourly RSI, you can see here that this slope is starting to slant, and it's starting to slant strong, and we're starting to flatten out here. Now, this is a sign of pre-bearish divergence. We can also see on the micro that we have bearish divergence. What you can see here is that, boom, we have the low, and we have an equivalent low. That's called exaggerated bearish divergence, both of which are just not good, okay? What it means is that the momentum is slowing down. The bulls are starting to get exhausted, and it's showing here on this hourly RSI, although the price itself may not be showing that yet. If we look at something like the daily RSI, you can see the massive level and the massive drive of bearish divergence, in which looks like us having set already the higher high here than we did, right? So we have this high and the higher high, but in comparison, right, we have not set anything of that sort by setting in that same time frame this high and an extreme lower high. Even here, lower high, higher high. So whenever you start to see these higher highs getting set on the RSI, and it looks like that, right? It looks like this big extension to the top side, and then we're not seeing a similar follow through on the price, it more often than not will lead to a quite strong pullback, and then we have to establish support, reset that RSI, then continue towards the top side, okay? So personally, what I'm looking for from Solana is the reset. I don't think this is going to continue upwards. I don't even think we're going to clear $43 before seeing a pullback. You know, we may see something of this nature, a bit of the inverse head and shoulders, or something like that play out, but I genuinely just don't see this thing getting back above 42.50 before needing to see a reset, especially seeing how the hourly and the 4 hourly and the daily are all showing us signs of bearish divergence. You can even see it here on the 4 hour, right, in which we are starting to see this kind of slow down. We're just barely past this previous high here, but we're pretty extremely past it, you know, on the price itself. So seeing all of this bearish divergence, it just all kind of makes me feel like there is the potential for us to see a strong pullback for Solana relatively soon. And it's not something that I want to be too much a part of. And I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, there we go. I wouldn't be too surprised at all that we're starting to see this kind of crossing pattern happen with our hourly MACD, in which we just keep crossing and keep crossing and keep crossing, but we're not making any actual progress to the upside. That is usually a sign. If we go back here, that is usually a sign, like you see here, that we're going to continue back to the downside, similar to what we saw back there. Okay, so the biggest thing I would say for Solana right now is, you know, if we get above 43, I'm going to revisit it, of course, because that is quite a substantial move to the upside here. And then at that point, we could cancel out some of the bearish divergence. But realistically, I'm just going to be waiting. I'm not going to be buying just yet. I'm looking for this next pullback. Probably what I would say is as low as even $31 to $32, somewhere around this level. And then I'm looking for the complete reset on both of those, the RSI and MACD, before I do start to look to purchase. So right now, I don't believe is the best time to be purchasing. I think too many indicators are flashing that there is, you know, a little bit of weakness coming from the bulls. And so for that reason, I'm just going to sit out. I'm going to wait. I'm not going to do anything. You could start shorting now. I don't necessarily believe that to be the best idea. I haven't been shorting Solana or any of those smaller altcoins just simply because they can go up too fast, too quick. And I think that, you know, the easiest way to get liquidated right now is shorting or longing on smaller, top 5 to top, below top 5 alts. I think anything below top 5, they can move very fast in a market like this, and it's very easy to get liquidated. So I'm personally not doing it. I'm just going to sit back and wait and start to prepare either for my next short trade on something like Bitcoin, or I'm just going to wait to go long on Solana once we do start to see those hourly, 4 hourly, and daily charts reset, and they start to give us a better picture of when a good buying opportunity could be. This isn't me saying it can't go up from here. It very well could, but I'm not taking that risk because everything points to me to say that it is very likely going to, even if it continues up a little bit, to very likely start to pull back. And at that point, I would start to be a little bit more open to purchasing. Okay, so with that said, that's going to be about it for today's video. Of course, I hope you guys did enjoy. Now, before we do go ahead and wrap this thing completely up, a lot of you guys, now that Solana has been having a lot of these congestion problems, they've been having a lot of these network problems, scalable problems, you guys have been asking me, what else is there, right? If there isn't a Solana, and we're starting to get a little bit turned away from Solana a bit, just with all the problems they've been having, well, y'all want to know, what are some new cryptos, right? And so I do have a sponsor of the channel. You guys know I always look for valid reasons to bring sponsors on. I don't ever go ahead and just accept any sponsorship just because. I only bring on sponsors that I think actually have meaning and that could be applied to my channel that makes sense on my channel. I get hundreds of sponsorship offers a day and I only accept maybe 2 or 3 a month. And so for that reason, I do have one for you all today that I actually do believe has a lot of potential and that does solve some of the problems that Solana itself has been seeing. And that's CIC Chain. Now, they claim to be the most intelligent smart contract platform on the planet. They are extremely new, but I do believe that they have an extreme amount of potential for how small they are. So this isn't necessarily one to be purchasing right now, but it is one, of course, to keep an eye on. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about it before we do wrap the video up. Okay, so CIC Chain is a blockchain built for everybody. We meticulously planned every single detail to create the most intelligent smart contract platform on the planet. Crazy Internet Coin is a nod to the meme coin investor, but under the hood, we have everything you will ever need to build the biggest and most robust applications that you can imagine. Now, this is why I was appealed to it. This is why I think that there is a little bit of potential, especially in comparison to the problems we're seeing like things on Solana. So first and foremost, they're scalable. Always important. CIC Chain has the power to scale to an enormous public platform due to the nature of Prism, our unique Byzantine fault-tolerant consensus mechanism. It's up to 90% more efficient than other chains. It's upgradable. CIC Chain can be upgraded to meet an ever-changing market if consensus is agreed upon by our validators. This will allow our platform to always remain progressive in nature to cater to the needs of the current climate. I'll relate that a bit to ADA Cardano. You guys know we have the Vassal hard fork, another upgrade coming up for them soon. And this is the type of upgradability that they are also offering. There's also high throughput. You guys know the importance of that right now. CIC Chain has been perfectly balanced to manage thousands of transactions per second. What's more is our data storage system is efficient enough to ensure that this high throughput remains sustainable to the environment. So it's not going to be anything that is super congestive and super bad just for the environment in general. And then lastly, we can see here that CIC Chain has zero finality. Once a transaction is submitted, it is confirmed immediately and then sent to the blockchain for validation. A complete transaction can be done in just 1 second, though even at peak times, you'll never spend more than a few seconds waiting. The importance of that is specifically centered towards businesses. What we know is that a lot of businesses don't necessarily want to take on crypto transactions because of the fault that, realistically, how is someone just going to stand there for 10 minutes waiting for their Bitcoin to go through? No, they need finality, and they need zero finality. Sorry, they need that thing to go through immediately. And so for that reason, that is what they're offering. Now, they're taking it a bit of a step further whenever it comes to zero finality and how they can appeal to businesses. As we can see here, it says CIC Chain has the capability to allow permissioning for applications built on our chain. So basically, this means they have control over who can use or access the application and its data. They also have the ability to show the zero knowledge transactions. This makes CIC Chain the perfect network for huge enterprises to build upon. Now, what this means is that there are certain applications that are going to need to be private. If you're in pharmaceuticals, you need medical records for customers to be private. And so they offer the potential and ability for those transactions to be private, and they can specifically pick who has access to what information, which would be perfect for people who want to store their information on blockchain, take advantage of blockchain technology, but they don't want to go to the extent of letting everyone see every piece of information that could be personal private information. So with that said, I do believe CIC Chain is one to keep an eye on. That is why I did want to bring them on the channel as a sponsor. And of course, if you guys want to see more of them, maybe we can do some more digging on them going forward into more videos. But I definitely think you should check them out at cicchain.net. Of course, there is always risk with cryptos this new. This is an absolutely terrible bear market right now, so I would not be doing anything crazy in terms of investing, but I do think it's always important to keep an eye on what the future of crypto could look like through some new projects. But with that said, guys, that's going to be about it for today's video. Of course, I hope you guys did enjoy, and I will see you all next time. Peace.